There's more evidence that Florida State is eventually coming to the Big Ten and not the SEC, and it's sooner than later. I have anecdotal evidence. Locked on Big Ten starts right now.
You are Locked On Big Ten, your daily podcast on the Big Ten Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Big Ten. I'm Craig Sheeman, coming up on 40 years as a sports talk show host and play-by-play announcer, and I want to thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Got an exciting one for you here today. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150, win or lose. Visit FanDuel.com/locked-on and get started. So, are we closer to Big Ten expansion? One of our favorite topics here. Plus, an update on the Wisconsin quarterback battle, and we'll compare spring attendance for spring football games around the conference. And Tuesday tweets. Hang around. Got some great ones there following the NFL draft and how it pertains to the Big Ten. But first, we all know that ACC schools like Florida State and Clemson, and probably many more, would like to get the heck out of the ACC media deal and out of the ACC altogether. Florida State and Clemson are the two schools that have put their money where their mouth is. They are currently embroiled in separate lawsuits while ultimately trying to get out of the ACC. The ACC is countersuing those schools as well. We got a lot of moving parts here, a lot going on. Now, we feel strongly that as soon as these schools are legally able to free themselves, they'll look for a new conference home. And we love to speculate how they might come into the Big Ten. Love it. One of our favorite topics. One of your favorite topics. We always enjoy going over that because it changes all the time. And a move to the Big Ten makes a lot of sense for these schools, and it makes sense for the Big Ten as well. We also acknowledge that the SEC may be a mutual option for these schools as well. There'll be a lot of negotiating, a lot of back and forth. And but there'll be plenty of schools to choose from to go back and forth when the ACC blows up between the Big Ten and the SEC. Now, admittedly, this is a pretty quick, simplified overview of this very complicated situation. But we've talked about this a lot. You guys are very educated on this topic as well. So in that regard, we don't beat a dead horse, just kind of set the scene here, if you will. There is a feeling of not if, but when the ACC will blow up. The Big Ten and the SEC will expand by taking these teams in and creating a version of super conferences, if you will. But what about when? When will this happen? It's not if, but when. The general thinking is sooner than later, of course. The sooner could come if these lawsuits come to a conclusion sometime this year, or perhaps some sort of mutual settlement is achieved. I'm starting to get a feeling that maybe that's the path here, a settlement between these where everybody's paying money and taking a little less and just getting on with their lives. But we'll get into that later on. But how soon? Again, how soon can any of this happen? We may have had a peek behind the curtain on the possible timeline for something like this. Florida State Athletic Director Michael Alford spoke to some Seminole boosters at an event in Chicago. Now, keep in mind, Big Ten headquarters just a few minutes outside of Chicago in Rosemont, Illinois. Alford told the crowd there that he expects, this is a quote, he expects to be in the Windy City much more starting this summer. What does that mean? That's pretty open-ended. Does he know something that we don't know? Or is he just throwing red meat to the base in the Midwest that would love to see Florida State join the Big Ten? Probably a little bit of both. But by this summer, I mean, we're halfway through spring right now. These legal cases drag on forever, and they go over in excruciating detail. Everything, as both sides try to fight for every single inch, every single dollar. So, is it realistic that something could be decided or learned by this summer? Well, you all know that there's a lot of money at stake. And at issue is, first of all, $130 million buyout per school to get out of the ACC. These schools think that's an unfair number that was negotiated on their behalf. That's one of the things they're suing for. And if they want to leave the conference, there's also hundreds of millions of dollars in media rights revenue that is at stake for the next 12 years, part of that 13-year deal that they're 1 year into. So could the ACC and some of its member schools come to some sort of compromise or settlement where both sides are eating a lot of money here? But if such a deal frees up a school, maybe it's worth it because they can get even more money in either the SEC or the Big Ten, as you all know. Right now, there's more money in the Big Ten. So the Big Ten may have some leverage first pickings, whether they want Florida State or Clemson, or whether it ends up being a North Carolina or a Virginia. And the SEC is going to be battling this as well. It's going to be a lot of leverage polls on all sides of this. And it's going to be fascinating to see what happens. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. But absolutely going to be a fascinating deal. And, I'm sitting here thinking, the Big Ten, they always like to have these academic standards of certain schools. Will they stick to that? We know that all but one school is accredited in a certain way. Nebraska isn't yet. We've all talked about this to death. And anytime I talk about academics, everybody gets so defensive out there. Well, this is a good school. And it's just about being accredited in a certain way that the Big Ten likes. And I'm curious to see if they're going to follow through on making that a requirement, or does football and football money drive the interest here? Are they willing to take a school that maybe is a little different academically than the other Big Ten schools, but they're a football powerhouse and they're going to bring in a lot of money? Would the Big Ten's first choice be Florida State? I would think it would be. Clemson's attractive, but I keep hearing talk about North Carolinas and Virginias, and there's always Notre Dame floating around to kind of figure this all out. So I think it's going to be incredible. And now you have the SEC also dealing from a position of strength as well. The SEC can fight the Big Ten for these schools. There could be flat out bidding wars for these schools if they circle a couple. If the SEC wants a Florida State, but the Big Ten wants Florida State, what happens then? And the money starts flying and negotiating behind the scenes and full shares of TV rights and everything. It could get really, really crazy for a while. But, at the end, money talks. Money always, always talks. So I'm going to be excited. We're obviously going to be talking about it here on Lockdown Big Ten. It just, maybe a school's on the fence about which conference would be a better landing spot, the SEC or the Big Ten. But again, who can come up with more scratch may be the ultimate deciding factor. And again, I think the Big Ten would have a slight edge here because currently with their current TV deal, their member schools are bringing in more money than even the SEC. That's why I don't think the Big 12 has a shot at any of this. I keep hearing Big 12 expand. No, Big 12's not getting any of these, not the upper tier schools. Maybe they'll get some of the lesser schools in the ACC that have nowhere else to go. It's going to be Big 10, SEC 1, 2, and then maybe some others will go to the Big 12 as the college football landscape currently sits. We'll take it as it comes. I mean, I don't know what kind of shape the Big 12 is going to be in, frankly, after Oklahoma and Texas end up leaving to go to the SEC starting this year. Fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. So we'll see who gets the leftovers and who gets the primo teams. But again, back to our original point, sooner than later, maybe this summer. If it's this summer, that tells me there's a settlement in the works. There's no way these legal cases, these court cases get done by then. This would have to become some sort of settlement where both sides say, all right, this, and this, A, B, and C, you get this, we take that, and let's just divorce. Let's just divorce and then go wherever you want. Remarry whoever you want. That's how I think it's happening. If we're going to get some kind of tangible information by this summer, as Alford has teased, the athletic director at Florida State. So Michael Alford is, again, opened up a little bit of a can of worms with his little speech up there in Chicago, but maybe he actually knows which way the wind is blowing on this thing and whether we might be headed to some sort of announcement or settlement. And maybe Florida State is already making plans to jump to the Big Ten as he spoke there in Chicago here just a few days ago. Love to hear from you on this always. You guys have a lot of opinions on this stuff. In the meantime, feel free to subscribe. We always ask for subscribers. We just got over 7,500. We're just over 1,000 when we started back in late June, early July. So we're growing leaps and bounds thanks to you guys. If you haven't subscribed yet, do it. It's free. Just click it on, and then you're in the club here with the Big Ten. You can follow Locked On Big Ten for free wherever you get your podcast, and that way you get the latest episode of this podcast as soon as it becomes available each and every day. I do have an update here of sorts regarding Wisconsin football and their quarterback battle. They got a two-man race out there. A little bit more information. All that is coming up right here on Locked On Big Ten. Game time. You want to go to some games? Maybe you want to go to some college baseball games, softball games. Maybe you want to make plans for next fall for college football already. Maybe it doesn't have to be sports, concerts, comedy shows. Go to the Game Time app, download it, get all your tickets to everything right there. Couple of quick clicks on your phone. Boom. It's right there. It is fantastic. And by the way, they're now an authorized ticket marketplace for Major League Baseball. Go once the kids are out for summer vacation, take them to a ball game. You can get your tickets with Game Time even faster and easier. And prices on the Game Time app actually go down closer to first pitch. It's fantastic. They're a killer last minute deals, all in prices, the views from your seat, from your phone. You can see what you're getting ready to buy and their lowest price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. So jump on it with all these deals that they have. Take the guesswork out of it with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege, LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download the Game Time app. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. While you're watching the games, you might want a little action on those games. FanDuel is where you need to go. It's playoff time at the NBA, Stanley Cup playoffs. As we just mentioned, baseball, it is happening. FanDuel is your place to bet on every game. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150 win or lose. You can bet on everything from slap shots to home runs, slam dunks, prop bets. It's all on an app that is safe, it's secure, it's very easy to follow along and use. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to make your first bet an automatic win. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. By the way, tonight, NBA. You know, you can always tell when a team's broken and it's over. We got a couple of those tonight. So use that for your advantage here. 76ers, Knicks. All right, Tuesday night. Knicks, 4.5-point favorites. Sixers are toast. They're done. Magic and Cavs, that one's a battle. That's competitive. Right now, the Cavs, 4.5-point favorites. That series, pretty good series, even at 2. Pacers at Bucks. Again, the Bucks, another team that is done. Doc Rivers, Giannis, they're all Dame, they're done. Pacers, 4.5-point favorites in this one with a 3-1 series lead. Take the Pacers all day long. Right here on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. All right, I want to thank everybody for making Locked On Big Ten your first listen every day. Thank you, especially you everydayers out there. Meanwhile, be sure to subscribe. It's free. It's simple. One click of the button, and you can subscribe on YouTube, and you can share and follow and like Locked On Big Ten, your team every day, no matter where you get this podcast. And don't forget to check out our website, talkbig1010.com. Everything we do is right there. Now, last week, one of the things we did, and if you're a Wisconsin fan and you missed it, go back to last week, Locked On Big Ten, and go to our website, talkbig1010.com. You can find it. Did a kind of a breakdown on their quarterback battle. It's very, very interesting at Wisconsin. So we did a deep dive on that. And Tyler Van Dyke, who, as you know, transferred from Miami and really in a battle with holdover Braden Locke. And both continue to take turns and rotate between first and second team string offenses as the spring practice is now wound down for Wisconsin. But we have some intel on how the last few practices have gone. Early in practice, Braden Locke seemed to be in the lead due to his familiarity with the offense and the fact that Van Dyke was kind of slow to learn it. There were a lot of stories that maybe, Braden Locke was going to be the guy. And there were stories out there that Van Dyke might even transfer out again before taking a snap with Wisconsin. But it must have clicked in those final few practices because offensive coordinator Phil Longo says that Van Dyke was coming on strong, really strong the last 4 practices they had. But I would use a word, I would have a word of caution with you here. As I've said many times before, talking about Van Dyke, I saw him down here in Florida and playing in Miami. Very inconsistent. Sometimes he looks fantastic. Sometimes he doesn't. And he may be looking good now. Just can he look good all season? That's the question here. So, and Locke can be steady. Perhaps his ceiling's not as high, but he's not going to have the drastic ups and downs. But Longo was emphatic that the situation will play itself out. And Longo's in no hurry. He says, "Hey man, we got 4 more months to take care of this. We got all summer." So just keep in mind, Van Dyke, not real consistent, ups and downs. Locke, very consistent, but maybe not as talented, perhaps. I got some observations for you from spring football. And by the way, we're talking about Florida State earlier. If they join the Big Ten, they probably need to step it up for spring football a little bit. Maybe there'll be a little more enthusiasm if they're in the Big Ten. Think they'd be able to get more than 18,000 for their spring game. Attendance was great around the conference. 80,000, of course, showed up to watch the Ohio State Buckeyes 2 weeks ago. A lot of intrigue and excitement over Will Howard and his competition with 4 other quarterbacks there, all vying for that starting job. Penn State had a huge crowd, 67,000 people at Beaver Stadium to check out the new offensive coordinator and to gauge the development of quarterback Drew Aller. Is he taking that next step up this year? The excitement is palpable at Nebraska. They had their game on Saturday, their spring game. Dylan Raiola. Everybody in the state of Nebraska is talking about this 5-star freshman, how amazing he's going to be. I think he is going to be amazing. Also, Oregon. They were expecting about 45,000 at Autzen. That came in at about 40K. People are genuinely interested in seeing quarterback Dylan Gabriel take over for Bo Nix and also take a peek at UCLA transfer Dante Moore. And I told you, I've predicted many times, I expect a very big season for Oregon this year in the Big Ten. In the Big House, on a gray and windy day, they only got about 31,000 out there at Michigan for their spring game. Questions remain at quarterback, but there's always excitement for a new season in Ann Arbor. Sharon Moore ready to take over for Jim Harbaugh. And they do have some talent coming back, even though they had 13 kids drafted this weekend in the NFL draft. And I do have one basketball note here. Florida Atlantic, they had a 7-footer, a center, Vlad Golden. After 3 seasons at Florida Atlantic, 2 years ago, they go to the Final Four. He was going to go to the NBA, but he's withdrawing from the NBA draft. He's returning to college. However, he's not going to FAU. He is going to follow Dusty May to Michigan. Dusty May just left FAU and as the head coach at Michigan, who took over for Juwan Howard. He'll be bringing 16 points per game, 7 rebounds, and almost 2 blocks per game in a 7-foot frame. Michigan's loaded. Dusty May's doing a great job. That's going to be a fun team to watch this year in basketball. Speaking of watching, I don't know if you watch the talking heads yap all day on TV at like Fox Sports and also ESPN. They argue and they scream and they talk over each other, and you probably turn down the volume or click to another channel with your remote control. Make the switch to Locked On Sports Today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming and nonsense. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on your YouTube or your free Amazon Fire TV channels app, which we are always glad to tell you about. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. On Tuesdays, we love to have a blast with Tuesday Tweets. It's one of my favorite segments of the week. Stay tuned. That's coming up in a minute right here on Locked On Big Ten. Monopoly Go. You all played Monopoly as a kid, right? And now I got to tell you about Monopoly Go. And it's fantastic. It's fun. It's intriguing. It's global. You know, you could team up with friends for timed tournaments where you work together to build up each other's boards. The more you win together, the more awesome prizes you unlock. There's a lot to get. You can get unique stickers that you could trade with friends to complete albums for bigger prizes. You got cool new playing pieces to travel the boards with, hilarious emojis for taunting friends when you smash their buildings or heist their vaults and take all their money. Plus, Monopoly Go feels new and exciting every day with constantly changing tournaments and challenges. A ton include your own unique mini games. You can dig for treasure, robot Panchico machines. There's always new timed events that help you win big, like massive multipliers for everything you win, or recent or rent frenzies. Everything you can think of is right there. It's way better than the Monopoly you played as a kid. There's always something fun to discover with Monopoly Go. So get off the bench, go download it now for free on Google Play or the App Store. It's Game On, Monopoly Go. All right, it is time for Tuesday tweets. We're going to put it on the board here. And if you're audio only, I will describe them in detail in case you can't see what's going on. We are going to start it off with, let me just add one more thing to the screen here. Let me start it off. There we go. With college football on Fox. This is from a couple days ago. It is a picture of Jim Harbaugh in a Michigan uniform and J.J. McCarthy in a uniform. J.J. McCarthy becomes the highest drafted quarterback out of the University of Michigan, surpassing former head coach Jim Harbaugh, who went 26 overall in the 1987 NFL draft. Of course, J.J. McCarthy, pick number 10 to the Minnesota Vikings, and we all are very anxious to see how all that plays out. Meanwhile, here is a swanky Wolverine, not wasting any time. Created his own McCarthy uniform, Vikings uniform. Looks good. J.J. McCarthy, you are a Viking. What else we have? This is at PFF College. Most picks by a school in the 2024 NFL Draft. As you can see at number 1, Michigan, with 13 players picked. 18 were eligible. I think they all got picked up as free agents, the ones that were left over. Texas coming at 2 at 11. We have Washington, the new Big Ten school, coming at number 10. Oregon coming in at 8. Penn State, 8. And Southern Cal, another new team, coming in at 7. So 3 of the 4 new schools coming into the Big Ten did quite well. They're just cranking out talent to the NFL. Good job there. And here's one more at Barstool, University of Michigan. It is J.J. McCarthy and Justin Jefferson. JJ to JJ is going to be special. Yes, it is. No doubt. No doubt. They got to get Justin Jefferson's contract ironed out there in Minnesota. Here is at the Big Ten Network for the 3rd straight season, University of Michigan women's tennis taking home the Big Ten tournament. Congratulations there. Here we go from at Tipton Edits. News: Florida Atlantic transfer Vlad Golden, who we just talked about, committing to Michigan. 7-1, averaging almost 16 points per game. That's going to be good. Here is from at Barstool Husker. This is a play, a couple of pictures from doubleheader on Saturday, where Nebraska beat Iowa 12-2 and 7-4 in a doubleheader. And they pointed this out because they saw a lot of Iowa fans acting like they won the Super Bowl with their sweep-avoiding win on Sunday. And this tweet reminds them of what happened on Saturday. Don't forget about these, buddy, quote unquote. Here is at Iowa Chill. He says, imagine not utilizing your best player. This is Iowa punter Tory Taylor, who we love talking about on this show. I mean, seriously, we talked about how he may have been the best player. The punter may have been the best player on the Iowa football team that went to the Big Ten championship game and won 10 games this year. Got drafted by the Bears. 4th round, only punter taken. But Caleb Williams was taken by the Bears with the number 1 pick, and he tweeted out, hey, you're not going to punt much here. I don't know if this is just a friendly little jab or if I would be offended by this. But Taylor really great at flipping the field. Here we go. Final breakdown of the Big Ten NFL draft picks on a graph from at Big Ten Football. Michigan leading the way with 13. Penn State 8, Illinois 4, as was Iowa and Ohio State 4 each. Maryland, Purdue, and Wisconsin 2 each. Michigan State and Minnesota and Rutgers 1 player each drafted in the NFL draft. Congratulations to all of those players. And here we have at Husker football. It is a collage of pictures, 3 pictures from Sunday's spring football game. and 60,000 fans on hand to start the clock. We'll be back here in 4 months. Until then, as always, go Big Red. They are excited about football there in Lincoln and Dylan Raiola. I am too, to be honest. Very much so. All right, there it is. Tuesday tweets. You can always find us on Twitter or X at Talk Big 10, number 10. Share your tweets with us. We'll put them on the program. Very, very simple. Hope to have you there. There's many ways for you to contact us, as a matter of fact. In addition to that, we've got Twitter, you've got YouTube. You can hit us up at, don't forget our website, talkbig10number10.com. Be sure to subscribe before you go and follow this podcast right now on your favorite podcast app, and you'll get the latest episode of Locked On Big 10 as soon as it becomes available each and every day. While you're here, check out another episode of Locked On Big 10. Feel free to string them all together. And also don't forget our friends from Locked On Sports Today, here for you 24/7. More football, more basketball. The portal's closed for football. So we're going to figure all this out. Anything breaks, we'll have it right here. We'll be all on top of it. Not only with the news and the facts, but opinion here. Very, very big on that. Tell your friends about us, especially your Big Ten alum friends, that we are here. Enjoyed our visit as always. For Locked On Big 10, I'm Craig Sheeman. We'll talk to you next time.